Welcome back to another episode of Smooth Brain EDH. We have the smoothest plays with the biggest brains. We've got another game to show y'all with Ryan from Playing with Power. Shout out to him and all the awesome content over on their channel. And first up today is Ryan on Kodama of the West Tree. This is a mono green ramp deck, hoping to swing in with modified creatures to trigger Kodama and cheat as many forests into play as possible. Next up is Jake on the partner pairing of Malcolm, Kediss Navigator, and Kediss Emberclaw Familiar. This deck is a Pirates deck, hoping to use Malcolm to generate a ton of treasures and ramp out powerful plays. Our third player today is Ethan on Ghyrson Starn Kellermorph. This deck is focused around ping effects, using Ghyrson to turn them into bolts to control the board and cut down opponents' life totals. Last is Jason on Breya, Ethereum Shaper. This 4-color deck is all about artifacts with a sacrifice sub-theme, and using Breya as an all-around value engine that just does everything you need her to. We're about to hop right into the game, but before that, go and give us a like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. We have links to our social media, public Discord server, Decklists, and our Patreon in the description. We're partnered with Dragon Shield. Check out our affiliate link in the description if you're looking to pick up any sleeves, deck boxes, or playmats, and use code SMOOTH5 checkout for 5% off your order. We're also partnered with Inked Gaming. Our affiliate link is also in the description if you're looking to make any custom playmats. Now, on to the gameplay.
And it actually looks like Ryan wins the die roll, and he'll have that classic turn 1 Forest into Elvish Mystic. The turn is then passed to Jake, who will play Command Tower into Strike It Rich, and this gets him a treasure token. The turn is then passed to Ethan, and he'll just play tapped Steam Vents and pass to Jason. And then Jason will just play Ancient Den and pass back to Ryan, who starts off with another Forest, then he'll cast Hardened Scales. And then he passes to Jake, who starts off with Reflecting Pool, then with the help of that treasure, he's able to tap for 3 and cast Malcolm. Let's move on to Ethan's turn now, where he'll play Spire Bluff Canal as land for turn, then tap for 2 and cast Thermo Alchemist, and then pass to Jason. And Jason shows us Mana Confluence into Dimir Signet. He does lose a life, and then he'll pass the turn to Ryan. He'll start off with an Opal Palace as land for turn, and he'll filter a green through it, then cast Kodama using it, and he'll enter with 2 1/1 counters because of it. The turn is then passed, and Jake will start off with a basic mountain. He'll then tap for 2 and cast Kediss, and then he'll move to combat and hit Ethan for 2 commander in the air. Kediss will make this also deal 2 damage to Jason and Ryan, so Jake will get a total of 3 treasures off of Malcolm's trigger. Then post-combat, he'll use 2 treasures in his command tower to cast Lightning Rig Crew. And then the turn is passed to Ethan. He'll start off with a Cascade Bluffs as land for turn, then he'll tap for 3 and cast his commander, Ghyrson Starn. The turn is then passed to Jason, and boy is he hurting for lands, so he'll tap for 2 and cast Ichor Wellspring to draw a card. Luckily he finds one in Mistvault Bridge, so he'll play it as land for turn and then pass to Ryan. And Ryan starts off with a Forest as land for turn, then he'll tap for 3 and cast Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. And she'll be -2 down to 1 loyalty to put a 1/1 counter on each creature Ryan controls. And thanks to Hardened Scales, they get an additional one as well. He'll then move to combat and swing Kodama at Jake and Elvish Mystic at Jason. They both just take their damage, so Jake takes 7 commander and Jason 3 damage. And since 2 opponents were dealt damage by modified creatures, Ryan gets to tutor 2 basic forests to the battlefield tapped. The turn is then passed to Jake, and he'll start off by tapping Lightning Rig Crew to ping his opponents for 1. And Malcolm will make 3 treasures. Then Jake moves to combat, and Malcolm is swung over at Ethan again for 2 commander, and Kediss causes him to deal 2 damage to Jason and Ryan as well. Oh, and it looks like Jake wasn't done attacking. He's going to swing Kediss over at Nissa to kill her. And when Malcolm deals 2 damage to everyone, Jake gets 3 more treasures. Post-combat, Jake will show everyone a Karn's Temporal Sundering, but Jason swansongs it before he can declare a bounce target, and he will lose 1 life to his Mana Confluence. He'll then cast a Departed Deckhand, which will untap Lightning Rig Crew, and it is immediately tapped again to ping everyone for 1 and make 3 more treasures. He'll then pass the turn to Ethan, who will activate his Thermo Alchemist on end step to deal 1, actually with Ghyrson Starn, 3 to each of his opponents. Then we move to Ethan's turn, where he plays a Volcanic Island, and then he'll slam Dockside Extortionist. Jake wants to lessen some of the treasures Ethan gets, so he'll use 2 treasures to flash in Malcolm, Alluring Scoundrel, and this will untap Lightning Rig Crew. Then Jake sacrifices his remaining 3 treasures for red mana, and then the Dockside will resolve. This makes Ethan 5 treasures, 4 of which were from Jason. Ethan will then attempt to move phases, but Jake decides to use his 3 mana with a Fiery Cannonade. So each non-pirate creature is dealt 2 damage. This will only kill Kediss and Ghyrson Starn. Oh, and the Swansong Bird. After this, Ethan will cast Seething Song, and his Thermo Alchemist will trigger. He'll respond to it by tapping it to deal a damage to each of his opponents. So then it untaps, and then he'll float 5 red mana, then float a blue to cast Ghyrson Starn again. And then he passes the turn to Jason, who will cast Breya. When she ETBs, he gets 2 blue Thopters, but he has to dig in his token box to find them, so he'll pass to Ryan while he's searching. And he plays a tapped Blood Crypt. And Ryan starts off by tapping for 4 and casting Guardian Project. Then he'll move to combat, and Kodama goes at Jake again, and then the Elvish Mystic at Ethan. They both just take their damage, so Ryan gets 2 more forests, and then he'll play a War Room as land for turn. Ryan then passes the turn, but Jake stops on end step to activate Lightning Rig Crew. But Ryan has a response. Beast Within is pointed at Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator, and it resolves, so he's destroyed, and Jake gets a 3/3. And then everyone takes their 1 damage. We then move to Jake's turn, where he'll move straight to combat. The 3/3 Beast is swung at Ryan, and then Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel is swung at Ethan. They both just take their damage, and Malcolm will trigger, drawing Jake a card, and then he'll discard Mox Opal. Then post-combat, he'll pay 3 mana to transmute Drift of Phantasms. And this tutors Glinthorn Buccaneer to his hand. The turn is then passed to Ethan, who will stop on end step to flash in Ophidian Eye on Ghyrson Starn. It resolves, so Ethan will stay on end step and activate Thermo Alchemist to bolt his opponents. And since Ghyrson Starn technically does some of that damage to each of Ethan's opponents, he'll draw 3 cards. Then he'll move to his turn, and pretty much as soon as he's untapped, he'll activate Thermo Alchemist again to repeat this. Then he'll cast Curiosity targeting Ghyrson Starn, and then Song of Totentans X0, which untaps Thermo Alchemist. And of course, he'll immediately activate it again to deal 3 to each of his opponents, and this time he'll draw 6 cards. Continuing on, he'll play Stormcarved Coast as land for turn, then he'll tap for 1 and cast Vandal Blast targeting Ichor Wellspring, because he and Jason are homies, so Jason draws a card and Thermo Alchemist is untapped, which is then tapped again for 9 more damage and 6 more cards. And then he'll cast Thought Vessel. Convenient no max hand size. The turn is then passed to Jason, and he'll start off by flunging at Ethan, and Ethan will chump block a 4/4 and take 2. Then post-combat, Jason will pay 2 mana, sack 2 Thopters, and activate Breya to give Ghyrson Starn -4/-4 until end of turn, and he does pay the ward. After this, he'll shock in a Godless Shrine, and then he'll pass the turn to Ryan, who will immediately tap for 8 and cast Finale of Devastation X6. It resolves, and he'll tutor Rampaging Baloths onto the battlefield, and Guardian Project draws him a card. He'll then play Drannith Ruins as land for turn, and he gets a Beastie. And then he'll activate the Ruins to put 2 1/1 counters, 3 on his Rampaging Baloths. Then he'll move to combat and swing Kodama of the West Tree at Ethan, who will just take it, so Ryan gets to tutor another basic forest to the battlefield tapped, and this gets him a 2nd Beast token. He'll then pass the turn to Jake, who stops on end step to activate Lightning Rig Crew to deal a damage to each of his opponents. Then we move to his turn, where he'll immediately move to combat and swing at Ethan for 7 damage. And Ethan just takes it, so Jake has a damage trigger, and he'll draw a card and discard a Time Stretch. Post-combat, Lightning Rig Crew is activated again, dealing 1 to each of Jake's opponents. Then he'll cast Corsair Captain, which untaps the Lightning Rig Crew. And then when it ETBs, he makes a treasure token. The turn is then passed to Ethan, and he'll start off with an Exotic Orchard as land for turn. And he decides he just has to start playing defensively, so the turn is passed to Jason. And Jason starts off with an Experimental Synthesizer. This exiles a Junk Diver, which he does not want. After this, he'll cast Thought Monitor, which draws him 2 cards upon ETB. And then the turn is passed to Ryan. He'll immediately move to combat and swing Rampaging Baloths at Jake and everything else at Ethan. After these attackers are declared, Ethan will overload a Cyclonic Rift. Jason's got the counterspell though, and so he'll counter Cyclonic Rift. And he loses a life to his Mana Confluence. Ethan is very dead here, but before he goes out, he'll deal the damage to all of his opponents. On to blocks now. Jake will put his Lightning Rig Crew underneath Rampaging Baloths, and then activate it to deal a damage to each of his opponents. Then damage will go through, and Ethan is dead, and Jake will have 3 damage trample over to him. 3 modified creatures dealt damage to players, so Ryan will tutor 3 forests to the battlefield tapped and get 3 Rampaging Baloth triggers. Then post-combat, he'll cast Shamanic Revelation. This will draw him 8 cards and gain him 28 life. After this, he'll cast Ivy Lane Denizen, Guardian Project trigger, and then a Soul Ring. Then with the Soul Ring in his last untapped land, he'll cast Gyre Sage, ETB trigger, and Ivy Lane Denizen will put 2 1/1 counters on Gyre Sage, and he'll draw a card. Then the turn is passed to Jake, and he'll start off with a basic island. Then he'll move to combat and swing for 6 at Ryan, who can't block any of it, and upon connecting, Jake will draw a card and discard Bident of Thassa. He'll then cast Glinthorn Buccaneer, and the turn is passed to Jason. If you all remember, he started this game with a Cyclonic Rift in hand. He needs to top deck another land or he can't cast it. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. He's going to play to his outs though and cast Prophetic Prism to draw a card when it ETBs. Then he just passes the turn to Ryan. But Ryan resolves a Craterhoof Behemoth, which means pretty much any instant speed interaction they have that isn't a Sea Rift does not matter. So when it ETBs, Ivy Lane Denizen will put 2 counters on Gyre Sage, an evolve trigger is missed, and then everything gets +11/+11 and trample. Oh yeah, and Ryan draws a card. And it's at this point that math doesn't really matter. Creatures are turned sideways, and Jake and Jason are obliterated. And that makes Ryan and Kodama of the West Tree the winners. Congratulations. Well, welcome to the end of the video. First of all, I'd like to thank Ryan for playing with us, even though this was way back in February. Everyone had an excellent time, and you're a cool guy. If you, the viewer, agree, let us know down in the comments below or leave us a like. And speaking of you viewers, we had to choose another winner for our giveaway. So congratulations to TVO812. You are the winner of the Olivia deck. We've already replied to your comment announcing that you are the winner, so please respond within 7 days of that reply, or we'll have to pick someone else again. Anyways, that's all for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a smooth day.